Hello, and welcome to this WPO podcast. My name is Lucy Hauss. I'm a psychologist and the director of account management at WPO. Today, I would like to discuss the topic of burnout. For this matter, I have invited my colleague Marijke, account manager and therapist, to comment on a visionary text that was published 80 years ago. It's The Little Prince from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. In this book, a little boy meets different characters, and I am going to read the section where the little prince meets a lamplighter subject to exhaustion. The fifth planet was very strange. It was the smallest of all. There was just enough room on it for a street lamp and a lamplighter. It may well be that this man is absurd, but he is not so absurd as the king, the conceited man, the businessman, and the tippler. For at least his work has some meaning. When he lights his street lamp, it is as if he brought one more star to life, or one flower. When he puts out his lamp, he sends the flower or the star to sleep. That is a beautiful occupation, and since it is beautiful, it is truly useful. When he arrived on the planet, he respectfully saluted the lamplighter. "Good morning. Why have you just put out your lamp?" "Those are the orders," replied the lamplighter. "Good morning," and he lighted his lamp again. "But why have you just lighted it again?" "Those are the orders," replied the lamplighter. "I do not understand." "There's nothing to understand. Orders are orders. Good morning." And he put out his lamp. Then he mopped his forehead with a handkerchief decorated with red squares. "I follow a terrible profession. In the old days, it was reasonable. I put the lamp out in the morning, and in the evening I lighted it again. I had the rest of the day for relaxation, and the rest of the night for sleep." "And the orders have been changed since that time?" "The orders have not been changed. That is the tragedy. From year to year, the planet has turned more rapidly, and the orders have not been changed." "Then what?" "Then the planet now makes a complete turn every minute, and I no longer have a single second for repose. Once every minute, I have to light my lamp and put it out." As the little prince watched him, he felt that he loved this lamplighter who was so faithful to his orders. He remembered the sunsets which he himself had gone to seek in other days merely by pulling up his chair, and he wanted to help his friend. "You know, I can tell you a way you can rest whenever you want to. Your planet is so small that 3 strides will walk you all the way around it. To be always in the sunshine, you need only to walk along rather slowly. When you want to rest, you will walk, and the day will last as long as you like." "That doesn't do me much good. The only thing I love in life is to sleep." "Then you're unlucky," said the little prince. "I am unlucky," said the lamplighter. "Good morning," and he put out his lamp. So, Marijke, I am now handing it over to you to answer a few questions. And my first question is, do you think that the lamplighter is experiencing burnout?
Thank you, Lucy, for telling us this small story from The Little Prince. The story of the lamplighter is indeed metaphorical and tells us about a man who is a lamplighter with a job that at least makes sense, as the Little Prince tells us. With the eyes of an innocent child, the Little Prince is trying to reveal a truth that is hard to see and hard to find. You can only see clearly with your heart. What is essential is invisible to the eyes. So, to get back to your serious question, is the lamplighter burnt out? I'd say yes. He's at risk, or he's already there. The definition of burnout tells us that it's a mental disorder resulting from chronic stress in the workplace. Our hard-working lamplighter shows many of the symptoms of burnout. Let's start with fatigue or extreme exhaustion that reduces efficiency and productivity. The lamplighter worker says, "I don't have a second to rest." He feels too tired and continues his work automatically and absurdly because he obeys the instructions without being able to think or rest. On top of that, He shows a lack of self-esteem in the work he does by saying that he has the most terrible job. He is no longer able to see the usefulness and/or beauty of his own hard work, a beauty that the little prince still sees clearly when he says he does a job that at least makes sense, and it's the only one that doesn't seem ridiculous to me. Perhaps it's because he's looking after something other than himself. So the little prince still manages to see the beauty of creating a little star and a little flower every time. At the same time, the lamplighter is constantly demotivated by his own work, combined with a cynical attitude and a feeling of frustration. Another symptom is isolation. In this little story, the lamplighter lives alone on a tiny planet, just big enough to house a lamppost and the lamplighter. So the day he has a visitor like the little prince, you'd think he'd be happy, but he's not happy at all. He keeps switching the lamppost on and off without wanting to stop. He obeys the instructions of his job in an absurd way.
Thank you very much, Marijke, for your analysis of this text. Can you tell us a little bit more about the warning signs of burnout?
Yes, of course. As we also saw in the story of the lamplighter, there are some signs or symptoms that can be visible long before to the person in question and/or to people or colleagues around him. So the first sign, your world and your perception become distorted. This distortion of your world starts in your head. Ideas flow, your mind weakens, and this creates negative thoughts that infuse themselves into you and create a cognitive distortion of your external world. In reality, you are projecting your inner state onto the outside world. For example, the lighter no longer sees the beauty of his job. He only thinks about the instructions, and he even says that he is doing the most horrible job. A second sign of burnout is physical symptoms. You have trouble falling asleep and often suffer from insomnia. You wake up in the middle of the night with a great idea to implement at work the next day. You lose track of time and well-being and find it hard to anchor yourself in the present moment. Trouble sleeping, neck pain, headaches, concentration problems, gastrointestinal problems, all coming from long-term exposure to stress. Your body reacts as your body and head prepare to save itself from danger. Just as we see it with our lamplighter, which no longer sleeps and is in a constant state of alert. The third sign is emotional mood swings. Your emotions become like a pressure cooker. They are just waiting to explode at the slightest opportunity. The physical and mental fatigue you experience is accompanied by a kind of neglect of your own needs without respecting your own limits. What's more, you try to stop feeling your emotions so that you can carry on working and follow the instructions, like the lamplighter. We also often see a tendency to isolate yourself and avoid contact, so the situation gets worse. It's a vicious circle. A fourth sign or indication of burnout, your self-confidence has been affected. You feel unable to carry out the activities assigned to you in the time available. Quite simply because you've said yes to a monster workload without alerting anyone to the stress and anxiety it's causing to you. Your feeling of latent incompetence will gradually evolve into a feeling of permanent failure. Here's a description of the situation experienced by the lamplighter. The lamplighter is so obedient to instructions without seeing the beauty and usefulness of his job. He's convinced that he is now doing a terrible job. He says, "It used to be reasonable, the instructions haven't changed, and that's the tragedy. The planet is spinning faster and faster every year, and the instructions haven't changed." So the situation has changed. It's an overload of work for a worker lamplighter who didn't dare or couldn't set limits. So now he's not sleeping anymore, a situation that leads to burnout, with the following symptoms: extreme fatigue, mood swings, isolation, a distorted perception of the world, and a strong lack of motivation.
Marijke, thank you for enlightening us about the different signs of burnout. Now, could you please share with us 3 tips for preventing burnout?
Yes, with pleasure. So the first tip, become aware of the automatic mechanism of stress and the protective aspect of a stress factor originally. Our body reacts automatically to protect us by increasing our heart rate, which is a wonderful mechanism if it's followed immediately by a moment of relaxation. However, if we are exposed to stress factors for a long time, our resilience will no longer work. The ability to maintain a balance between our load-bearing capacity and our carrying capacity will be at risk. Long-term stress will leave us physically and mentally exhausted. By being more aware of this stress mechanism, you will gain a better understanding of your habits, which aren't necessarily helpful, such as perfectionism, not respecting your limits, saying yes to everything you're asked. A second tip: understand burnout as an energy disorder and be aware of what gives you energy and what takes it away, while demonstrating the ability to set limits and nurture your resilience by practicing what gives you energy. What we often see is social isolation and this desire to continue working, which often results in being counterproductive. For example, in The Little Prince, the lamplighter just wants to carry on with his absurd job and doesn't see the opportunity of the little prince's presence to have an exchange with someone and have a friend or companion to share his worries and start enjoying the sunsets, just like the little prince does. Tip 3: develop your stress management skills, such as practicing mindfulness and the principle of gratitude, adopting relaxation techniques such as heart coherence, seeking support from colleagues and your social circle, maintaining good health and physical fitness. Just like the little prince, learn to live in the moment and look at the world and your work in a different way. At the end of this extract, the little prince confesses, "What the little prince didn't dare admit to himself was that he missed this blessed planet, above all because of the 1,440 sunsets every 24 hours. The little prince, with his childlike eyes, looks at the situation and the lamplighter's job differently, and still manages to appreciate the beauty and usefulness of the job. If the lamplighter becomes aware of his situation and changes certain habits because he wants to change them, he could become friends with the little prince and organize his work differently and find a work balance that suits him and supports his mental and physical health."
Thank you very much, Marijke, for these tips. And I also want to thank our audience for listening to this podcast. We hope you enjoyed this session about literature and psychology, and I'm looking forward to future sessions.